Okay, so today we are going to be thinking about love and relationships, and I'm in very good company. I'm joined today by TV and radio presenter, the fantastic Trisha Goddard, and also the lovely Jo Hemmings, who's a TV psychologist and also trained media and behavioural psychologist. So I think you'll all agree we are in good company today. We're talking about love and relationships today, so I just wanted to ask you both a couple of sort of rapid fire questions. The first one being, what is the worst relationship advice that you've ever heard or been given yourself? And then perhaps to give you a little bit of time to think of something yourselves, I can definitely say that probably the worst I've ever received is, you have to make him jealous if you want him to stay interested in you. That was great teen advice that I got many years ago now. Jo, can you think of anything?
I can think of how it's changed. I'd like to think I don't deliver bad advice as a relationship coach.
Absolutely
although
not.
Occasionally it might happen, I suppose. I think, do you remember there used to be this thing called Temchem? Treat 'em mean, keep 'em keen.
Oh, yes.
And I sort of think that's so yesterday's thing. It just isn't, we need honesty and transparency now, and that game playing that people used to do just isn't good advice anymore. But it used to be something you would say, particularly for a woman to keep a guy on their toes by, just kind of keeping him at bay.
It's trading on insecurity, isn't it?
It sort of is. It just seems pointless now, but it was definitely a thing back in the day.
Yeah, that would do it as far as bad advice goes, I'd say. Trisha, do you have anything that comes to mind?
Well, my kids would tell you that I'm the one who's given them bad advice, because when I used to drive them to school, you remember the Beyonce, the Destiny's Child, the ring I'm wearing, I bought it, the car I'm driving, I bought it, the house I live in, I bought it, I depend on me when I want it, independent women. I used to, and we're doing this, recording this on International Women's Day, but I used to drum into them that independent woman thing. And my mother told me, get into a relationship before you even think about a permanent relationship. Have your own car, your own house, your own career, so you never stay with a man for money. And I drum that into my kids. And my older daughters come back and said, both my kids are highly successful, earn a lot more than most kids their age, but thanks to the driving and to them, they're amazing kids, but they say, because I've done that, they find it very difficult to find a partner who measures up to them, who earns the same as them. I've got to say the same as that. And I'm sorry, but there is enough toxic masculinity out there. I hoped it had completely gone by the younger generation, but apparently not. There's enough toxic masculinity out there that finds a woman who is very successful or earning more than them either a threat or, this is a good one, milk it for all it's got. And like both my kids at various times have said, Mum, why couldn't you have just said to us, why, we become these monsters that men are scared of because we're so driven. And I think that's a really interesting one to explore, because we assume the younger generation women have it a lot easier with that whole successful woman thing. But I tell you, my older daughter, especially who's in her early 30s, would tell you it's led to the collapse of many a relationship.
Yeah, I think sort of every generation has to adjust with these new themes and strengths coming through, don't they? One more question for both of you. What would you say, Jo, is the biggest change in attitude towards relationships that you've seen over the last decade?
Well, that's a good question, because I think there's a lot of difference between what I've seen in the last decade and the last 2 years. If we go through those pandemic years, I think that's where there's been a massive shift, because I had more than one couple say to me, I did not sign up for this, i.e. being with my partner 24/7, working from home, homeschooling, no break from them at all. And that really challenged quite long-term, good, solid relationships that were thrown into a completely different environment.
Yeah.
And it became very difficult for some. I'd say for others, actually, they really cherished it. They appreciated it, but quite a lot. They never would have anticipated that kind of a change.
Yeah.
And they found it really hard to deal with. And lots of perhaps things that were overlooked in their relationships before, small things that they could have gotten through, perhaps even without addressing them, really became the elephant in the room. And it put a lot of stress on their relationships.
Yeah, we say our vows, don't we? In sickness and in health. It's not in sickness and health and in lockdown.
Well, indeed, exactly.
Yeah, a lot of adjustments for everyone.
Dear Deirdre, since I got married, my sex life with my wife has become really boring. Just the same old routine, time after time. We met 2 years ago and I really fell for her. She's a beautiful girl, and back then our sex life was amazing. She was really adventurous. It's only really slowed down since we got married. I found some old messages on her phone in which she was talking to exes about what she'd like to do to them and what she'd like them to do to her. It turned me on, so I recently asked her if we could try some different things and be more kinky. She said she's past all that silly stuff now. It's making me feel tempted to cheat. I'm only 27 and she's 25. How do I save my marriage?
No, I'll let you start with that.
But interesting, I don't think this is a question about sex drive. Because
No, I don't.
I think there's a problem, a deeper, intimate issue in their relationship.
Yeah.
And she's using it as a bit of an excuse to say, oh, well, you put all that stuff to one side now. There's something else going on here. I don't know if she's finding him less attractive. And also, I think to say, oh, it's the same old routine every day, well, he needs to try and shake it up. Perhaps not by saying, I found these messages from your ex and you used to do, blah, blah, blah. But actually, while you're in the bedroom, trying something else out. I mean, he may be partly to blame for going in the same order and the same, routine each time. But it is something.
And Jo, I was going to jump in there. Well, I mean, you found the messages on the phone.
Well, yeah, that's all a bit.
Yeah, and I was like, hello.
How old were these messages?
Yeah, and why are you on her phone?
Yes,
why are you scrolling back on her phone? Yeah. What are you looking for? Why are you scrolling all the way if they're all messages? What's going on? Are you snooping on her? You might happen to see something flash up on someone's phone, but old messages, you've got to scroll quite.
There is something suspect in this relationship that has not much to do with sex drive.
Why do you say she's a beautiful girl? Everything she's an exciting, she's accomplished, she's a beautiful girl. Could this woman be thinking, I mean, I'm just putting myself, and I could completely have it wrong, you're seen as a trophy, something that's pretty and beautiful, and you're checking up on somebody. And Jo, I completely agree with you. There's something else going on here, and intimacy. It's taken me. Look, I'm as far as expertise, it's taken me 60 damn years to find this out. Intimacy is between the ears. It's not between the legs.
You're so right. I always say the best foreplay is unloading the dishwasher. Please and thank you.
I mean, the whole question of libido is a really important one because, as we know, women particularly, but men too, have significant hormonal changes in their life. Which affect our sex drives, and it's really important that conversation takes place between couples before the man thinks, well, she's gone off me. Oh, well, she did have a baby a few months ago. Oh, she's having a menopause. There's lots of sort of indicators. But in this particular question, I find it quite a troubling question. Even the fact when he said she's beautiful. Well, she wasn't beautiful. I mean, the attraction with someone you're married, the sexual chemistry is not about what you physically look like in your facial features. I mean,
No, it's a bit blow up dolly thing, isn't it? I mean,
uncomfortable.
I find it uncomfortable. She's a beautiful girl. It's not like she's exciting, or she's bubbly, or it's about appearances.
And beautiful girls don't have any different a sex drive to non-beautiful girls. I mean, it's nothing to do with sex drive.
Yeah,
it's a good point.
He's not talking about how he feels about her, is he? And then he's very quickly talking about the fact that he's considering cheating, before he starts the conversation.
And I wonder if that's an implicit threat over her head, because there's nothing like the threat of, if you don't come across with the goods, I'll find someone who will. I mean, that's an icy bucket of water over any relationship's head.
Yeah, it's not particularly motivational, is it?
Oh, God.
Really?
So, really, continuing the theme then, our next letter is about cheating.
Dear Deirdre, my partner cannot forgive me for cheating, and now she's making my life a misery. I made one mistake, and now I'd like to move on. But she won't let me forget what I did, and she punishes me for it constantly. I'm 34, and I've been in a relationship with her for 5 years. She's 33. When we met, we agreed not to have children. I really wanted them, and she said she didn't feel maternal. Early last year, she told me she'd forgotten to take the pill and was pregnant. I was upset and angry, and I felt I was being held over a barrel. I love her. I wanted to make her happy, but all the stress of this made us argue a lot. Our relationship started to crumble. And while she was pregnant, I stupidly went out and I got drunk and I slept with someone else. I confessed to my partner straight away and I told her it was a mistake. At first I thought that she'd forgiven me. And after our son, now 9 months old, was born, my heart melted and I'd forgot why I'd never wanted a baby. But it soon became clear that my partner couldn't forgive me. She has now stopped wanting sex and she refuses to even let me cuddle her or touch her. She criticises everything I say or do, putting me down and telling me I'm useless. If I feed the baby, I'm doing it wrong. If I buy him a toy, it's too dangerous or too cheap or too expensive. She tells me she's going out with her friends and she leaves me to look after the baby. But if I want a night off, she tells me I can't be trusted to go out alone. She's made me feel worthless. I love our son more than anything. I don't want to lose him or her, but I just can't carry on like this anymore.
It's a heartbreaking one, isn't it? Jo, what are your initial thoughts?
God, again, it's a very, very... what I hear here is a lot of defensiveness from her, a lot of, I can do this on my own, I don't need you. I don't know if the damage that this one-off has caused in their relationship has created such a barrier, such a boundary in her head that she won't let him in anymore in any way, either being involved with his own son or their intimacy or even as friends. It feels like she's really, really pushed him away. Now, they say with infidelity, you can forgive, but you can never forget. But in this case, that it's very loaded, isn't it? In the I neither forgive you nor will I forget this, and he's in a very difficult situation to know how to best get that conversation going where he says, I can't do anything right. I'm doing my very best, what else I can do, without it turning into an argument, to be able to have that conversation without him saying, you make me feel like this. He's got to own his feelings, saying, I'm feeling like this because of this. How can we sort this? How can we move on through this? It's very deep, and I think that's the conversation he's got to have, because she is pushing him really very, very far away from a relationship as we would expect it to be.
I feel for her, because I've been in that same situation. I completely agree with you. There's a lot to unpack there. Being cheated on when you're pregnant, there's all sorts of things that come up. I mean, he did admit it straight away, but you fear like STDs and things like that. There's so much fear around first babies anyway. I think it's difficult to extrapolate what is quote unquote normal first baby behavior, like wanting to keep baby all to yourself. There are lots of things that he might be reading it, adding on to an already fraught situation. That is kind of what a lot of first-time mums do anyway, leave me alone, you can't do it as well as I can. I mean, that's something that we're always unpacking with new parents anyway, in the strongest relationships. I think coming from him, maybe she felt his will superimposed hers, in that he didn't want children. She quote unquote, so many women quote unquote forget their pill as a way of, it's not even passive aggressive, but saying these are my needs being fulfilled here. So first of all, you get through that. And then all the arguments about it at a time when you see girlfriends at baby showers and happiness about pregnancy everywhere, and you've got someone berating you or creating anger and adding to the stress of pregnancy. So the resentment would have already started before this fling, and then having the fling, and I'm a little troubled by the words "I moved on." I admitted it, I moved on, but neither did she. It's like, ooh, I don't think you moved on. You thought, if I put my hands up to it and I say mea culpa, then it's a done deal. No. And there's the quote unquote normal behavior after any cheating is, where are you? What, and all of that. The lack of trust when you're at your most vulnerable. I mean, they need to go and see somebody like Jo. I'd say straight off. I don't think they can unpick this themselves. And plus, you've got to add to an already fraught situation the lack of sleep and all the things, all the stressors that babies bring. We say that if you've got a bridge that is your marriage and it's a little bit cracked, the baby will be pulling out bricks all over the place, and you do what you can do just to stand up. That's in a normal loving relationship. So you've got all sorts of problems. I don't think this is something that the two of them can sort out on their own in isolation. I do think that they need to go into couples therapy ASAP, even if it's to decide how to split up without a lot of damage. But perhaps it doesn't have to come to that. But I think they need, if you like, a referee or a safe place, not home. She goes out and leaves me to look after the baby. No, I hate it when people say that. Yeah, I have to babysit my own baby. No, you don't. It's your baby. It's your bloody baby. So I think that they need somebody else there, and I think they need to have a constructive working. This isn't going to sort of, just because you love her and the baby so much ain't going to make it right. I think there needs to be a safe space where both of them can talk about their feelings, and he's got to have to hear a lot of uncomfortable things.
I agree. I think they do need relationship counselling without a doubt. But I'm going to say something quite controversial here, and it's not to do with this particular story because it's too late now. But this guy who went out and cheated because he was resentful that she'd got pregnant, or he was angry, or he got drunk, or whatever it was, why did you tell her? Did you tell her to make yourself feel better? Because it certainly hasn't made her feel better. Now, I'm all for honesty and transparency in relationships. I really am. But there are times, if you've just had a one-off because you've been stupid and you're angry and you've taken it out and you've just got silly, you didn't have to tell her. And he said, I told her straight away. Why did you do that?
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I say. And it's just like, I've ticked a box. Oh, sorry, me a cup and move on.
Best not to have said anything at all. You live with your girls.
I agree with you. I know you're right. It is controversial.
No, I agree.
But what you're taking the guilt off your shoulders and putting it on that person.
Yeah. Or are you saying this is what you've driven me to? If you are going to cheat, I've always said this, if you going to cheat, even if in the back of your mind you think you might, for God's sake, take a condom, especially when you've got a pregnant partner, because you're not only risking her sexual health, you are risking the health of the baby. That's one thing I'd say. Even if you think, I might, she'd deserve it, put a bloody condom in your wallet. I'm very passionate about that because but I agree with you. Why are you telling her straight away? That's the other thing, straight away. It's not like the guilt ate at me for weeks.
It's
No.
not a situation where he thinks she's going to find out from somewhere else. It's he wants to tell her. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. I think we might have time for one quick last letter. This is a classic, the division of labour between couples. Here we go.
Dear Deirdre, when I mentioned changing the bedding, my wife snapped back, "If you want to change it, don't let me stop you." She is 37 and I'm 40. I'm no male chauvinist. We are both working adults, so I believe that the chores should be split. But when I changed the bedding last time, she yelled at me for interfering and I felt belittled. It's now been a bit too long for me and the sheets are beginning to smell. I can't stand sleeping in grubby sheets. I feel I can't do right for doing wrong. She baffles me sometimes. How am I supposed to approach her about it? I really don't know.
I remember my children's father, we argued about the division of labour because I'm a working woman. I employed him, actually. I had a big company, production company. And, it's like, why are we even arguing about that? Let's get a cleaner. And yeah, it might be an added expense, but it was an added expense that paid off if you've just got somebody in maybe for a morning a week to do those things. But when you talk about the division of labour, I mean, sit down and draw up, if you're not a male chauvinist, is there anything wrong? I used to do with my kids, we had a timetable, a thing on the wall whose job was whose, but if you can't agree and what have you, say, why don't we get a cleaner for a morning a week or something? And this thing about the sheets are starting to smell, what is this, a competition about who gives out first? Oh, let the sheets get so rancid she begs me to change the bed. I mean, first world problems.
There is a conundrum here, and I've heard it before, which is when you say, right, you're not doing anything around the house, so you empty the dishwasher, you stack the dishwasher, and then, but you're not stacking it right. No. The glasses go there and the plates go there. No. You can't put the knives in that way around. Now, this is what women sometimes do to men. So they then back off. Now, I think, like a child, when your child helps around the home, and they haven't done it before, they're not going to do it exactly the way that you would like it because you've been doing it for years. Let them make those mistakes. I think her fault would be saying, you're making the bed, but it's not the way I like it. Too bad. He's made it. People learn how to do these things for themselves. And if you ask them to do it and then berate them for not doing it the way you would do it, it sets up a bad cycle there where the guy that
how does he say that to her? How does he say that to her? Because again, like women, we know that if you bring it up, I can kind of see where the conversation would go.
He should just whip those sheets off and change them. I don't care if he doesn't make a hospital bed. That's a bit dated, isn't it? Or it isn't fluffed up quite the way it should be. Just whip them off. Why would you be lying in dirty sheets? I don't care.
To prove a point.
I mean, it's just.
I just say honestly, just get a cleaner for half a day a week. I mean, really, if is it really just that? Is that the only problem that if that's the only bone of contention in their relationship, I'd say they're the luckiest couple in the world. If there are other things around housework and the division of labour, then somebody for half a day a week. I think there are worse things men.
It may be symptomatic of other things, but if that is, as you say, if that is their only issue, it can be solved very, very quickly, and we can move on. They can have clean sheets and a happy life.
Non-smelly, clean sheets. I think it's often the thing that they feel is safe to talk about, isn't it? But as you say, that there's lots of other issues bubbling away. And her reaction makes me almost think: is she feeling like he is commenting on her standards and how clean she is keeping the house? She's very.
He is doing that.
Yeah,
I mean that's exactly what he's doing.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah. But I like Trisha, your idea of the timetable, dividing it. Not fantastic if you can pay for a cleaner, but obviously not everyone would be able to do that. But talk to each other, divide up your chores. Definitely. Thank you very much, both of you. Thanks so much for coming in and sharing wealth of advice with us.
Oh, thank you for having us. It was great.
Yes.